Welcome to the Opening Bid Podcast. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Like I always say, this is a podcast that will make you a better investor and a smarter leader. And we're always talking really hardcore here about stocks and leadership. I want to do something a little more fun. I think it will tie in all of these things and maybe stimulate other areas of your investing brain. I want to bring in Aaron and Andre Eanes, founders of A&A Management Group. Good to see you guys. Travis Kelce, like you guys manage him? What is it like? And how did you meet Travis? And just take me through how this all started for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you kind of, go how we met, but it's never a dull moment. I mean, I think we get to learn a lot. I mean, I would say when you're working in sports, especially we started the business 13 years ago, you don't obviously imagine how far things can come because growing up in Ohio, you just are dealing with a lot of, I would say, different things, right? There wasn't a sports management company that I could kind of emulate. There wasn't a lot of, I would say, information out there about what sports management was. So we kind of got a good idea of the business through IMG, which was started in, Ohio, and then music. I mean, I think music, you saw the Music Manager and how musicians had to really monetize everything that they did. And at that time, that was when 30 for 30 broke kind of came out. And you saw that athletes that didn't have a coordinated team, athletes that got into bad investments, athletes that I would say got bad advice, really, ultimately went from amassing an extreme amount of wealth to going broke. And I think that was one of the impetuses and one of the things that made us want to start the company. And then from there, you got to basically figure out who wants to work with you and pitch people. You got to
bills, yeah.
Build a real business.
That's true. And I think, I was a sports management major and entrepreneurship minor, and being able to build kind of what the business model was in college, I think was extremely helpful because when I look back at that business plan, we're kind of, I would say, where we thought we would be, which way from a business perspective and where we thought the landscape would look like. And I think that's with, I think social media has helped a lot of that, and just natural trends in the industry have helped. But I think being able to have that time when you didn't know anything and you could just, I would say, use some class time to build out what a business model possibly could look like, I think really helped us to where we're at today.
Both of you are going up against really these really large talent management companies. How are you guys have been winning? What is your secret sauce to going up against these companies?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in and add because it's really the relationships. I know when we grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, I played AAU basketball, and that's when we originally kind of met Trav, but it was in passing. Honestly, it wasn't really like a deep friendship, but I ended up going to the University of Cincinnati. He ended up going to the University of Cincinnati. I remember, back then you would get on Facebook and find out who was from the city that you were in that was coming to the school.
So we're old now, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I remember sending him a message like, hey, you're from Cleveland. I'm from Cleveland. I know you're from AAU. I'm down here and whatnot. And he ended up being roommates with one of my good friends, and we kind of hit it off that way. But in college, I started an event management business, and I would throw all the events and make sure his teammates and him were good getting in the door, and anything he kind of needed from a business standpoint, he would ask me about parties and stuff like that. So that's how we got close. And then when, Aaron had the idea of we should go deep on the sports management business side, we kind of walked in that, and we grew up in a good time, right? Social media had just popped. It wasn't really managers out there. It was more, agents handled kind of everything. That was the narrative. And then one of my good friends and mentors represented a lot of entertainers at the time, and he would tell me how he was managing them from an entertainment standpoint, not even thinking about sports. So I think we've just been able to be exposed to a lot of different things that weren't the same in the sports space that we would kind of be able to bring it full circle now.
And I think to answer, to piggyback off that a little bit, like Andre said, I think the relationship is the key. I think with all of our clients, it's the key because, we're not their on-field or on-court agents. And so by having that relationship and being able to have honest conversations with them, being able to have that back and forth, just like in any good partnership, I think it allows us to kind of do what we've been able to do, because then you're not worried about second guessing each other. You're not worried about, are they going to get mad that I'm telling them the truth? You're worried about, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? And then really being able to kind of go out into the market and figure out that, and then come back with what we think the best solutions are, and then just be able to put options in front of our clients to be able to make sure that they are accomplishing what they want to accomplish, but then also we're bringing in good people, good advisors, good insights to really make sure that when they make a decision, they're able to make the best decision.
How difficult it is to have the conversation of money with talent. They have a large sum of money, have many things coming at them. They want to live a certain way, given the hard work that they've put in. I mean, how tough are those conversations? And what are you telling them right now?
So I'll start. So my career's in finance. So I worked in banking first, and then I moved over to private wealth management. So I kind of gotten my education on like how to do that day-to-day wealth management, financial planning. So I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's kind of been easy, because it's more of we're a voice. We've always been a voice. We always put our clients in a position to make the right decisions, whether it's helping them with their financial advisors, their accountants, their lawyers, and kind of just giving them the plan and the strategy. I think giving the information up front so they kind of already are like understanding like this is what's going to happen over these next 12, 18, 5 years, I think helps a lot.
What mistakes do you, not necessarily your clients, but what mistakes do you see, I guess, athletes still making? Like we see all these stories. If you mentioned 30 for 30 broke, and we see online, this person earned 50 million a year and now they're living on the street somewhere. Like,
I mean, I think it's a twofold, right? When you think about the lottery winner, right? And like you hear those statistics and you think about, I would say new founders that, before our time, obviously, got rich quick off of IPOs. I mean, I think with anybody that has a lot of money coming in at a very short amount of time or a very quick amount of time, it's just understanding what do I do. Yeah. And I think, the challenge I would say sometimes in sports is, and probably not even just sports, is how do I find the right advisor, right? And I think if you're having an advisor or having people around you that are advising you on something that have never been there, I think that's, part of the problem. And I think from our standpoint, we've always kind of looked at it from a standpoint of, if we don't know something, we need to go out and find the best people that do and that have experience working with the types of people that we think we have as clients, right? So whether it's the JP Morgan private banks, whether it's the Goldmans, whether it's the B of A's, we really try to align our clients with the best people across everything that we do, because then it just helps us get better information. But then as time goes on, the clients, because they're in these meetings, they're sitting down, reading the prospectuses, and they're getting a true overview of what's going on. And they have, some people that are, and Andre, myself, and our whole team that aren't directly tied to their asset management. So you're able just to get another voice that can represent them in the room before it even gets to them. And I think, that's why obviously athletes today are making way more money than they made in the past. But I think you're starting to see, because of the reporting on how athletes go broke, because of, athletes seeing other athletes have success, whether it's the Magic Johnsons, the LeBron James, you name it.
If they've created an empire.
Yeah, like they're starting to like say, okay, how did they do that? And like, how do I do that? Right? And I think, at the end of the day, the more athletes, and I would say just probably anybody, can get advisors that, have their best interest, and I think you ultimately won't see the outcomes that you saw in the past.
Within the client, your roster, like how are they investing right now? We've had a tremendous run in the stock market. I was goofing at the top of the show. Everybody talks about NVIDIA and all these tech stocks. Like how are they putting their wealth into action today?
Yeah, a lot of our clients, they work with financial advisors, and they're investing in stock. They have their portfolio strategies based on the needs and the things that they want, because everyone's different. I think that's where the big key for me is. I kind of sit in the middle and help them navigate it the right way versus, as Aaron said, taking the advice of an advisor that may not necessarily know the day-to-days, the marketing deals that they're bringing in, the business deals that they're doing outside of, playing their sport. But on the private side, I mean, they're kind of doing things that they care about and that they're passionate about. I think we've made decisions on some things that were with bigger firms, that know what they're doing and done this a million times, but we've also been able to invest in small startups that ended up becoming big things. And I think for us, our focus is, what type of opportunities can we get our clients in that they can bring value to the table? And it's not just money. It's networking, it's building relationships, it's marketing, it's branding, it's things like that. And I think that's where we've had success on our side. We're helping them to get into those types of opportunities, but then finding the sponsors that know what they're doing, that have done it before, that built business before, and created things, instead of, a random startup that we've never heard of, finding those companies that have the moat.
How do you know, how is it hard for these athletes to say no, to, let's say, a company, they want to cut them a big check, but it may not be right and doesn't work with their brand. And they have a lot of these probably coming at them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing less and less. I would say, if we back up a little bit, sports in the past was kind of dominated by, especially like the shoe deals, right? That would be the first big deal an athlete would get: football, basketball, first round draft pick. And because of that, the shoe companies were very big in developing the brand of the athlete. I would say as time has gone on, you see that shoe companies now work more with influencers, artists, creators, and things of that nature. And I think you're seeing that also translate to athletes. And so athletes now have to build their own brand. But the opportunities with that is when they build their own brand, they can then start to have an idea of what brands align with my audience, what brands align with my values, what brands aligns with me. And yes, in the beginning, if a brand's coming in and offering a big check, which they're doing less and less of, it's hard for I would say an athlete on their first contract to not do a deal. And it also is good for them to just start understanding what it is to do deals. But as they get to their second contract and they have the money, they're not so necessarily as worried about the money. They're worried about, do they like the product? Do they like the brand? Do they align with my values? And I think when you see that happening, now there's a lot more opportunities for creative deal structures and creative ways to really leverage not only what the brands do, but then also at the same time the athlete as well. And I think, to your investing point, you're able to see if, you see the rise of the athlete as the investor, right? And I think they're able to Andre's point, be able to get into great deals because of the access they have, but then also because of the opportunities they can bring on the marketing side and then on the network side and on subsequent fundraising rounds, right? And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of opportunity. As well with, I would say, more and more brands that are not traditionally in the sports marketing landscape wanting to get into the sports marketing landscape.
All right, hang with us, guys. We're going to go off for a quick break. We'll be right back on Opening Bid. All right, having an awesome conversation here with Aaron and Andre Eanes, founders of A&A Management Group, talking about one of their biggest clients, Travis Kelce, how sports or athletes are investing. Really interesting stuff here. So, do you have on a spreadsheet Travis's enterprise value? How do you value the Travis Kelce brand?
That's a good, yeah.
Great question.
You have an input for Taylor Swift, input for commercials, and then input because he's probably going to the Hall of Fame. What does it look like?
No, I mean, I think, because of social media and there's a lot of tools out there now that you can start understanding the value of the audience, right? And then at the same time, you can also look at, how a brand values media attention, right? So you're able to evaluate, what's the media value a client brings, what's the social value a client brings per post and stuff of that nature. And you're able to kind of make a value around that. And then obviously you just look at an athlete's time, right? So part of it's going to be hey, what amount of money is it going to take for you to get out of bed, right? And then from there, once you determine that, you're able to kind of take out some of the other things and say, all right, here's the value that it's going to cost. And then ultimately you just have a conversation with the brand, right? Because if the brands align with the value and the brands align with where the client wants to go, it's an easier deal to get into versus if the brands don't align with the clients.
Sure. What does Travis want to do in terms of how does he know it's a good deal for him? I mean, I imagine he's arrived at a point where he doesn't have to say yes to everything, right?
Well, he doesn't say yes to a lot of things. I mean, he says no primarily, which is also a benefit, right? And so it's really going to come down to what are the values of the brand, right? Especially now, everything that he does gets media attention. So if he doesn't align with the values of the brand, if he doesn't align with the people involved in the brand, if he doesn't align with the message they're trying to say and the audiences they're trying to reach, he's just not going to do it. I think from there, I would say that's the biggest thing. He align with that.
He's very good at knowing if he's comfortable. He'll take a meeting with someone. We'll do all the back end due diligence. He'll sit down. If he just doesn't feel right about it, he won't do it. So we can sit here and say the brand's values versus this versus that, but really it just comes down to what he feels comfortable with and what he's interested in doing, honestly. And we kind of stick to that, and it's been successful.
What is his brand, if you had to define it?
I would say optimism.
Yeah.
It's good.
We're still figuring it out.
We're still figuring it out.
It's constantly evolving, constantly changing.
But I think if you think about, someone who wasn't, he played tight end for 1 year before he got drafted, right? He played for 2 years total, right? And so, if you go look at, what his rankings were and go look at what the commentary was around his game, no one expected him to get to where he's at today, let alone get to a second contract, a third contract, be the first ballot Hall of Famer. And I think because of how he was raised, I think because of also just his mentality of, being optimistic, being competitive, being, just really, I would say, having a very strong belief in himself, he's been able to navigate kind of the ups and downs of a career that, but then also be able to navigate an entertainment career and a digital media career. And so you're seeing, I would say you have a lot of ideas when you start out working with someone and what career could look like. And I think from us on the field standpoint, he's a comp who knows what the end goal is going to be, but he's on his way to accomplishing even more than anyone could have imagined.
Have you talked to him, like, what does life after football look like for him? And does he start that planning now? Like, is that already?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that was our
Day one.
Yeah, that was our main pitch, right? It's like, we want to help you plan for, in all of our clients really, plan for what's next, right? And leverage the opportunity that you have as a pro athlete to figure out what your final career is. Because if you just go on stats, most athletes are done playing way before they're 30. But if they're lucky, they're playing into their mid-30s. But that's it. So it's like you have a whole life to live after that. And if you don't take advantage of the opportunities for access for information, access to networking with people, like you said, you were just in Davos and you saw a lot of retired athletes, like, you don't get to there if you're not doing some things while you're actively playing and you have the attention on you. So, I mean, it could be everything from entertainment, it can be from business, it can be from impacting the communities. I mean, I think all of those are options, and that he's doing all those now. So
I look at Travis Kaepernick, not Travis Kaepernick, but he is now an entrepreneur. He's like working with like a crypto company or a blockchain. Is that something Travis might be? Does you see him as like a startup guy, like starting a business?
No, he's not that type.
Colin
of guy.
Kaepernick,
Yes,
mental break.
yes.
I'm thinking of like the former Uber.
yeah, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, true. Oh my man, that's just bad. I guess that brain freeze from Davos.
It goes back to your earlier question when you asked what are some of the mistakes you see, and it's not utilizing the platform that you have as an active player and figuring out what you want to get into. To Aaron's point, Travis has his hand in everything. So going back to, you mentioned mogul early on. We don't like to use that word. He doesn't like to use that word, but he's already in business. He's already doing TV. He's already doing podcasting. So it's really just expanding and going deeper on each of those. So he's not really a startup guy. He's more of a, let me find the right people that know what they're doing. And if it's a business that I like, I want to get involved in that.
And I want to name drop here, but the conversation's still fresh in my head. So at Davos, I talked to Dave Rubenstein, of course, who owns the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah.
And he made a good point that there should be a salary cap in baseball. So I kind of marinated on it a little bit. I'm like,
of course,
I get it. I get it. But like, I mean, the Dodgers have now almost a $500 million payroll. It's huge. Like, what do you think about what we're seeing in sports, the rising values for talent? I mean, holy cow. I mean, is it a bubble or it just keeps going up infinitely?
I mean, I think it's correlated to the media value, right? I think that's the challenge you're seeing in college sports, right? Their media values aren't aligned necessarily with the value of actually the individual institutions and the universities. And so I think, yes, in baseball, would you probably want a salary cap if you're an owner? Absolutely.
Even a billionaire.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably a challenging business model. I mean, we've looked at a few baseball teams and deals, and we're just like, ah.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at what the NBA just did with their media rights deal, and you look at the audience of the NBA, and then you look at what the WNBA got, and you look at what the MLS is probably going to get, UFC, and then obviously the NFL has a rights package up in a few years. So I think you're going to continually see, when their contracts are tied to the media value, rising salaries, which I think is great.
You think we're coming up to the $1 billion player? I mean,
I think in baseball, yeah. I mean, I think yes. I mean, if you think about Chris Paul, LeBron James, and those guys, if you can find the next version of that and they're able to play 20 years, yes, you'll definitely have the $1 billion player.
Mm-hmm. I think the leagues have a lot, are utilizing their stars more, like showing their face and making sure that like fans can resonate with what the stars are doing. I think that's also helping these leagues become bigger. You know, I think baseball, I don't think I've seen it yet, where you see a lot of big major stars on a lot of commercials and a lot of, out there having their face out there. So I think there's time and opportunity for that also.
How do you spend your Super Bowl week?
With Super Bowl week, you really plan the week ahead, right? Because you really want to make sure that, everything's taken care of with friends, family, and stuff like that. So, players can kind of really focus. Yeah. And then for us, it's one of the events, similar to like a Davos, right? Where everyone in the sports landscape is usually in town. And so you really would just take opportunities to reconnect with people, really take opportunities to understand what some of the businesses that spend around football and sports are doing for the coming year. And I mean, now you see even things like Sports Beach that was in Cannes is going to be at Super Bowl. And so just a really good opportunity to network, plan for the year ahead.
That Cannes, you guys go to Cannes. We Yahoo went there. We've been going every year. I went for the second time last year.
I went for the first time.
It was Sports Beach.
Wild, yeah, Sports Beach. Yeah, we were
great.
set up right next to it, but the presence there, I mean, it's like, holy cow, sports arrived on a whole new level.
And I believe that was the first year Sports Beach.
That was the second year, but they did it way bigger, and this year they're gonna do it even bigger.
Oh my God!
I
Yeah.
always say, like, guys should come to Sport Beach, and Fashion Week. Try to make them both happen, because that's where you get to meet and talk to some of the biggest names in marketing, in branding. All the major brands are out there. We got to meet with all of them, understand what they want to do and how they want to build. And it's, for us, we're like, this is now we can take this back to our clients and show them, here's the things, best practices that you need to be doing to get these brands interested in working with you.
We have an early invite to the Yahoo Beach Party. Last year, we closed it down with the chain smokers. So it was.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, no, it was a hell of an event. So we have 2 minutes left. We always like to ask our guests hot takes. What is your best negotiating tactic? I mean, you're going up against, not
Saying
against,
no.
but really, I mean, like you're like talking to like these giant companies.
Yeah.
They want to extract as much value from your roster, but your talent wants this from them. Like, how do you?
I'd say every meeting we're in, I think he'll love this. They think we don't know as much as we know. They think we're not as coordinated as we are. And I think this is the thing about athletes is, I think we spent 12 years building a playbook of what athletes need, what they want, and how to negotiate that. And I think just like an athlete would start in middle school and they work all their way up and they go to college and they get drafted, I feel like we did the same thing, So when we sit down in a meeting, we know about brand value. We know about our client social media and how much value that can bring. We know about the private equity side of businesses, right? What it takes to distribute and do marketing and invest and raise money. So we kind of look at it from all angles when we're looking at deals, and that's how we, are able to be able to negotiate the deals that we do. And I think having that coordinated approach is important.
And then being able to, like I said, going back to the relationship piece, being able to understand what a client's willing to do and what he's willing not to do, we're truly able to say no. And when you say no, a lot of times brands come back and say, well, is it money? Is it? And then you have more leverage and opportunity to kind of get the deal that you need.
I think you guys are doing some cool stuff. It's a real treat to have you on this podcast. I'm looking forward to staying in touch. And really, you had that early invite to Yahoo Beach Party.
No, definitely.
It's happening. I just don't know who's playing yet. Yeah, I don't know who's playing. I don't know who's playing yet this year. Aaron and Andre Eanes, good to see you. Founders of A&A Management Group. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate all the love out there. Continue to hit us with those likes on all the podcast platforms and YouTube. We feel the engagement. I appreciate that love. I continue to answer all of your comments to the extent I could, because you guys just keep coming at me with all these comments. I do what I can. That's it for the latest episode of Opening Bid.